Good evening and welcome to the Monroe Township Board of Education. Please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Gorski, roll call.
Mr. Braverman. Mr. Chiarella. Here. Mr. Klein.
Though I did call that I was going to miss it because my wife's in the hospital. She threw me out and I made it. So it's very important to be here, and that's why I'm here. So yes, I'm here. That's pretty good.
Filiponovich.
Here.
Mr. Leary.
Here.
Mrs. Leonard. Mr. Masters.
Here.
Mr. Tesler.
Here.
Mrs. Ferroni. Mr. Kaufman.
Here.
Mr. Board President, you have a quorum.
Student board members?
This Friday.
No, just acknowledging that you're here.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No, 4 is me. In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted January 7, 2011, 1, at all schools, 2, Home News Tribune, 3, Cranberry Press, 4, filed with the clerk of the municipality, 5, student board members report.
This Friday, Brookside will have its PTA school store. Tuesday, January 25th, the Parents' Workshop will be held in the Brookside School Media Center. On February 3rd, there will be a Mill Lake and Woodland PTO meeting at 7:30 p.m. in Woodland Elementary School, and Mill Lake's PTO is holding variety show tryouts on February 11th in the Woodland Gymnasium.
Oak Tree will have its school store this Thursday, January 20th, as well as a PTA-sponsored assembly program Wednesday, January 26th. Woodland's PTO-sponsored school store will be happening this Friday, January 21st, followed by a DARE culminating assembly at 9:30 a.m., January 24th. Finally, Woodland's Character Jeopardy assembly will be next Friday, January 28th. Thank you.
Great. Item number 6, presentation to student data analysis.
Last week, the Star Ledger published state test scores, and although we have a lot of work to do, there is some strong evidence that the things that we have been engaged in over the last 2 years have created some very positive results. And although the superintendent's action plan serves as the blueprint from our work, it also provides further evidence that the district is moving in the right direction. And I really want to thank the members of the Superintendent's Advisory Council and Cabinet for their work with helping to execute the superintendent's action plan. One of the things that we've been focused on is closing the gap between Monroe and some of the more affluent, wealthier districts. And part of why I think that's so important to keep on the forefront is because I've continually advocated that we have the resources and the talent pool here in order to do that. And that has been an ongoing goal, and we are very well on our way to doing just that. I asked Mr. Gorman to provide us with an analysis of the data that was provided in the Star Ledger so that we would have a frame of reference as we look at our benchmarks that were established last year, our progress between last year and this year, and then to look at some of those areas where we need to further develop an improvement plan so that we continue to close that gap. Mr. Gorman?
Do you want us to move out there?
Yeah, in order to get to that screen, I'm going to need you here, or we could bring some lounge chairs over for you. Wow. Courtesy seating in here. We go to a commercial. We can go to a cafe. That's the right after the break.
Hey, how you doing, Patrice? Hey, Patrice. I've changed you to president.
Thank you. Physically, at least, mentally, it's a whole different story.
Good to see you, sir.
Okay, good evening. All right, let's try this better. Okay, so this article came out last Thursday from the January 6th
Star Ledger. And basically, it was a comparison of how we did in Monroe compared to the other district factor groups. But before I did that, I wanted to give you an overview of some internal data crunching on how we've matched up against ourselves in a year. And Dr. Hamilton mentioned the superintendent's action plan, and I believe this is, you'll see some really nice evidence in the data that I present to you. And in addition, what you'll see is I'll identify a couple of areas that we're taking a nice look at. So we know, like we said, we have some more work to do, and that's what the data is so good, because it paints the picture for us. So just some highlights. I want to give you some highlights. The grade 4 average total literacy proficiency gains from 2010 to 2009 went from 80.3% to 73.2%, or an increase of 7.1%. That is the 3 NJ Ask grade 4 test results in language arts literacy, total proficiency. So we took all the schools from the 3 elementary schools, averaged them up, and we saw gains from 2010 to 2009. We also saw a leap in our mathematics proficiency gains in grade 4 from 91.6 and 80.7 a year ago, which I believe is a very significant jump in those types of gains. As well, we saw science proficiency gains from 99.2 from 96.3. And those are the areas that are tested in 4th grade, and that's why they were reported out. Grade science proficiency rose to 93.8 versus in 2009, 91.3. And the grade 11 language arts literacy proficiency scores rose to 92.7 total proficiency versus 2009 of 87.7. And I think all of these highlights are really should be noted because they are significant. And the literacy advanced proficient. The advanced proficient, that means our highest learners are achieving at even a higher level. So the total proficiency wraps up proficiency and advanced proficiency, but I thought it was important to note that the advanced proficiency rate went up in the high school on literacy. These are the data that was presented, and what I want to call your attention to, if you look at these totals here, with the exception of one area, we have done some really great work in a year. This is a small decline in Brookside, but the gains at Oak Tree, at Woodland, at Applegarth, and at the high school in literacy is profound, and I don't believe that it's a coincidence because it was due, I believe, partially to the implementation of a balanced literacy program. In mathematics, the scores at the elementary level were very high, and here we will take a look at this dip at the 8th grade level in the mathematics score, and that is definitely on our radar, and that could be a number of different factors through the Connected Math 2 program, through an anomaly, or whatever other reasons, but we're going to start looking at that, and that's where some of our problems of practices are focused in the district area, so we'll be working on that area. And then at the high school, even there was a nice gap up. In science, near perfect in a lot of areas at the 4th grade level compared to last year, and at Applegarth as well. So we're definitely on the right path. Overall, as a picture, this is a very positive report, I believe, from a one-year gain. Okay, here are the next set of data comes directly from the article in the Star Ledger, and what we did is we compared, the Ledger actually compared it listed all of the scores from the different schools in Middlesex County. So here are the FG schools in Middlesex County, along with Monroe Township, Dunellen, Middlesex Borough, Milltown, North Brunswick, Old Bridge, and South Plainfield. Also, the GH, the I, and the J districts that were listed in the ledger. Edison, Highland Park, Piscataway, North Brunswick. As GHs, I's were East Brunswick, Metuchen, and South Brunswick, and the two J's of Cranberry, West Windsor, Plainfield.
I'm sure that's Plainsboro, Jeff.
Oh, I'm sorry, we're over.
Yes.
Plainsboro.
Yeah, that bottom one, there's no question about that.
We'll correct that before tonight is over. Okay, in literacy, the highlights, grade 4 total literacy scores, average of all 3 Monroe schools is 80.3, which is higher than 17 out of the 20 individual schools in the FG factor, better than 10 out of the 13 GH schools, better than 13 out of the 16 I schools, and within 5 percentage points of the 3 J schools. Grade 8 total literacy is 91.9, which is higher than all 7 FG schools, 9 out of 12 GH schools, 3 out of 4 I schools, and within 8 points of the highest of the 4 J schools. Again, pretty impressive. Definitely, without a fact, very impressive towards the FG, the GH, and the I scores. Grade 11 total literacy scores, 92.7, is equal or higher than 6 out of the 7 FG schools, all 4 GH schools, within 3.2 percentage points of all 3 I schools, and within 5 percentage points of the 1 J school. And these again were the totals, which I mentioned to you, which I showed you a couple of slides back. In the area of mathematics, major, this is the highlight of the show right here. Grade 4 Oak Tree total mathematics proficiency, 95.8, highest in the entire county. This includes 25 FG, 13 GH, 16 I, and 3 J schools. 57 other schools, and the Oak Tree community has scored numero uno. And that's a nice...
It's our farm team.
That's our farm team, which is really great. It is our farm team. Also, our grade 4 total advanced proficiency mathematics, scores of all 3 schools is 50, our advanced proficiency. So that's over half of our kids as advanced proficient higher. That's a very impressive stat. Higher than 23 out of 26 FG schools, 6 out of 13 GH schools, 9 out of 16 I schools, and within 15 percentage points of the highest of the 3 J schools. Again, here is the data, summary of the data. Science highlights include grade 4 total science scores, 99.23, higher than 19 out of 23 FG, 13 out of 15 GH, 15 out of 16 I schools, and 1 out of 3 J schools. And the grade 8 total science, 98.3, which again is higher than all 8 FG schools, 6 out of the 8 GH schools, first out of the 4 other I schools, and within 5 percentage points of the highest J schools. It's a tongue twister for me. And again, there's the science data, which is very impressive again. I do believe the future is very bright. In a mere year, I do not believe that these jumps in scores are by coincidence. I do believe that it's due to the concerted effort of the team of educators that we've put together in this district, and I think it's evident. And thank you. Of course, we'll post this presentation on the website. I'll also try to include a link to the Star Ledger article. I don't know how long that stays up for online. Any questions?
Thank you. You've done a fine job. I try to do that, and it takes a long time.
Yeah, it was fun. A couple hours.
Oh, yeah, I was hoping it would. No, because I was talking to Mike.
Oh, my ID.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, that's fine. I missed the yearbook.
Mr. President?
No, just a minute, Mark.
Oh, you weren't here?
I'm here.
Oh.
Okay, before we continue with the agenda, I just want to make a comment. Obviously, it's a great thing when you see the test results come back from all the standardized testing that any school district has to go through, but to see the types of results that we've been getting over many, many years, with the culmination of this year's results coming back, Oak Tree is setting the bar so unbelievably high for this district, especially the 4th grade team. I would just like to congratulate Oak Tree and the 4th grade team for all their hard work, and I know that the rest of the school district is not far behind. We've made a lot of great strides, and I know we're going to continue moving forward, continuously raising the bar in Monroe Township to not only set the standard in this region, but to raise the standard in the region. Dr. Hamilton, do you have anything?
No, sir.
Okay. John?
I think one of the real keystones is the advanced proficient numbers. That really, really indicate that there has been a good, strong curriculum program and strong teaching.
Does anyone else want to speak to the stats? Mark?
I wish we had attendance here, like we have when we talk about the budget, or it's to say to the district, for the parents to see this. It's the leadership, Dr. Hamilton, Mr. Gorman, all the department leaders, the department heads that set the standard and give the teachers the proper tools. And of course, the teachers are doing a great job. So it's a credit to you guys and to everybody in the system. To have results like that is fantastic. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Klein.
Anyone else? Before we move on to public forum, I just want to make a note that item 4 of the agenda, the posting of the public forum was actually done on January 14th. So we just want to make sure that we're in compliance. Item number 7, public forum. Anyone wishing to speak before the board, please come up, state your name and address for the record. Going once. Seeing no one, we move forward to the approval of the minutes of the Public Board of Education meeting, November 17th, 2010. Motion?
Second.
Mr. Tessler, Mr. Chiarella. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Comments?
I abstain on December 15th.
Well, we'll let you know when we get there.
Oh, you did the first one.
Back it down, tough guy. Anyone else? Comments?
Motion passes.
Great. Public Board of Education meeting, December 15th, 2010. Motion? Mr. Tessler, Mr. Chiarella. Any abstentions? Mr. Klein?
Absent.
Ms. Ferroni? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Comments? Passes. Closed session minutes, December 15th, 2010.
Second.
Tessler and Chiarella. Any abstentions? Mr. Klein and Ms. Ferroni. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Comments?
Motion passes.
Great. Item 9, Superintendent's Report.
We conducted the first part of our instructional rounds at the Monroe Township High School. We are light years ahead of other districts with implementing this protocol. And just some other information. We had a major glitch with Alert Now this morning. In case you hear some complaints about the call going out late, we had to implement the old standby paper call system because the automated system server was down. So between 4:30 and 5 o'clock this morning, Alert Now got a very irate message from me. So if you should hear about that, I'm not my usual pleasant self at 4:30 in the morning. But we were able to finally reach a support person, and we're working on a backup system should we ever encounter that problem again. It wasn't just Monroe, by the way. And enclosed in your report for your review is the enrollment report for the months of November and December. And you see that our enrollment is continuing to increase. The out-of-district placements are also included in your report, along with the home instruction reports. Our fire drills and lockdown procedures are listed there for your consideration. And you will notice that in some instances, the principals are still conducting 2 fire drills in addition to the lockdown drill. That is not required. They're only required to do 1 of each, but some principals have elected to continue to do the 2 fire drills anyway, and bus drills were also included. Moving on to the personnel items, Mr. President and members of the Board of Education, it is recommended that personnel items A through S be approved by roll call vote.
So moved.
Chiarella, Mr. Tessler.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Mr. Tessler. Yes. Mrs. Ferroni.
Yes.
Mrs. Leonard. Mr. Braverman. Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Mr. Klein.
Yes.
Mr. Masters.
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Board President, personnel items A through S on the superintendent's report passes.
Moving on to board action items. Mr. President, members of the Board of Education, it is recommended by the superintendent that Board of Ed actions items A through G be approved by roll call vote.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Mr. Tesler?
Yes.
Mrs. Faroni?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Board President, board action items A through G under superintendent's report passes.
That concludes the superintendent's report at this time. There may be an additional item should the board elect to go into closed session.
All right. Moving on, item 10, Business Administrator's Report.
Mr. Board President and members of the Board of Education, it is recommended that board action items A through N be approved by consent roll call. Please note the change. Some prior agendas need to have the letter O changed with the letter N. There was a typographical error. It should be items A through N.
Motion?
So moved.
Chiarella, Mr. Tesler. Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Mr. Tesler? Mrs. Faroni?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Board President, board action items A through N under Business Administrator's Report passes.
Great. Item 11 is Board President's Report. I don't really have anything to report on, other than the fact that we know that this issue today with Alert 1 was a problem. I want to make sure that the district knows that we're going to make every effort to make sure that we have a primary and a secondary system in place to make sure we don't run into these issues anymore. Do I have any committee reports? Kathy?
Oh.
I'm going to give a report on a Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting that we had last Monday, January 10th, I believe. Some of the items that we discussed on the agenda was one was the sale of district industrial arts equipment and textbooks from Applegarth, the high school, and the maintenance shop. The committee approved advertising and accepting bids on the sale of these outdated textbooks and computer hardware that we no longer need in our curriculum, and we know have no use for them because they're outdated. This was approved on this evening's agenda. Temporary classroom units. Currently, we have 89 units in Barclay Brook, all over the district. And as of June 30th, we will be removing 71 units from Brookside, Barclay Brook, Applegarth, and the high school, and we will be left with only 18. And the cost of tearing down and removing these units were included in the lease agreements when they were approved and signed. New high school update. Everything is going well and is on time. The work that's left to be done is primarily on the first floor in the gym area. The committee discussed adding some additional storage units, storage closets, cabinetry, and shelving to some of the classrooms that require additional storage space, and it's better to do it now while we're working on it than sometime in the future. We also approved for the new high school adding a second layer of snow guards to some areas on the top of this building where drifting and blowing snow coming off the building could possibly cause a safety issue. After conducting an asbestos IAQ testing at Applegarth, Dr. Lynch of Environmental Safety Management Corporation has issued an all-clear letter to the district, and this letter will be available to the public. And lastly, the committee requested a prioritized list of capital projects throughout the district that will need to be addressed in the next few coming years. And that is that report.
Great. Anyone else? Okay, great. Other Board of Education business. Mr. Klein?
Couple of things. As I've mentioned in the past, I've been doing everything in my power to attempt to wake up the governor and our elected officials to give us more funding, to give us our fair share. I did receive a letter back, this was a while ago, and somehow I misplaced it on my desk, from the governor, stating that he read the letter that I sent, and he turned it over to Brent Schundler, who was supposed to contact me. I was never
How'd that work out?
contacted. Okay, so a letter went out, to the acting commissioner. Her name is Rochelle Hendricks. And included in that was the letter from the governor, the original letter sent to the governor, and two letters that I'm going to bring up now that I just sent out. One letter, of course, went to Ms. Hendricks. The other one went to Chief Justice Rabner. As you know, the Abbott decision is up for discussion again. And I tried to time the letter for them to receive before they made a decision as to possibly, with hope, changing the formula or overturning Abbott completely. So I will continue doing this for as long as I'm on the board, hoping that we will get a response and get some help. Just a note, Piscataway was in the papers again complaining about their school aid, that they need more. Mind you, they were only cut 28%. From 17 million to 12.4 million. We were cut 95% to $236,000, which is utterly ridiculous. So they're crying about it, and they're at least getting $12 million, and we're getting squat. Last two things, and this is just suggestions. I know I spoke to Mike about this, about our electric bills. You know, you have these alternate delivery companies that will deliver electricity a lot less expensive than what we pay now through PSC&G, and they work right along with them. And I understand that we have a state contract. Did we ever check with companies like Verdi, Verizon, and two or three others to see whether those prices are still below what the state program is? Have we had a chance to check that?
Back in July, a resident requested of the superintendent and I to review a contract for energy services by a provider called Veridian.
Right.
And we determined that due to the multi-level marketing nature of the particular energy provider, that it wasn't in the district's best interest to try to promote customers for this organization to get commissions back in that field. The district currently participates and buys energy through the ACES program, through the Ed Service Commission, and we recognize collaborative purchasing savings in that regard.
Now, I do understand that Verdi is probably the lowest of all of them. Verizon, I know how they work. They're trying to use people, it's more like a pyramid. And that would not be good, but companies like Verizon, and I think Commonwealth is, well, Constellation? I think Constellation is the other one. It's straightforward, they deal directly with us. But if you've done your homework on that, then as long as we're doing well. Health insurance, I went through your report and all these checks that go out. And when I see what goes out to Blue Cross Blue Shield, I mean, it makes you shiver. I know the program that I'm going to bring up has been done in the private sector. I don't know if we're allowed to do it. And what I'm talking about is self-insurance, where all of your normal medical costs we would pay out of our pocket and only have insurance for catastrophic illnesses or hospitalization. I don't know whether we're allowed to do that. And the second thing, which we did discuss, and I know that's something that would have to be in negotiations, is offering two insurance policies, a plain Jane policy that would be offered free, and the policy that we have now that would have to have a cost to it. I also understand, I don't know what, well, I better not say it. I understand that we are having a fairly large increase again in medical coverage, and something's got to happen. So that's the end of my report. I appreciate the time.
Mr. Klein, to address your comment, the district last year went through a review of our health insurance policies, and we went away from a premium-based policy to an actual claims-based policy. So basically, for medical insurance, we're paying the actual claims of the participants plus a small administrative markup. And we recognized significant savings over the last year in that regard.
Very good.
So we are.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Leary?
You made mention of the Educational Service Commission. It provides pooling arrangements for energy, for telecommunication, and Mike is involved with that, and that provides some reasonable discounts for, and they have, in some cases, hundreds of school districts involved. So they're talking about a very large market base. The second thing I want to bring to people's attention was that yesterday in the New York Times, at page A18, they had an article that said that Governor Christie supports county-based schools for autism. And this is going to be a very interesting thing to watch. Now, in Middlesex County, we have probably the best autism array under the Educational Service Commission. We have the Academy Learning Center, and we have the Center for Lifelong Learning that are specifically designed for autism. And the leadership of that are people who are subject matter experts and who are well recognized throughout the educational community. But there are advocates known as SPAN, the Statewide Parents Advocacy Network, who want to have integration of autistic children in classrooms. And I see this as going to be a knockdown, drag-out brawl, and it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. And I'll try and keep you posted as it evolves.
Anyone else? Kathy?
I sort of want to piggyback something to Mr. Klein's letter writing campaigns that he proposes every year or every meeting. We're in the beginning of the budget process. We have a lot of preliminary work going on with our budget, and a big part of this budget this year is going to be opening up the new high school. In the past, we used to get a waiver from the state to open up a new school. So we're not opening up a small school, we're opening up a rather large school this year. The waiver is no longer in effect. It was there last year, it was there when we passed the referendum, and we did so with the impression that we would be having the waiver still in effect. So this year, they decided no waiver, and there's a 2% cap. So we have a lot to fit under the 2% cap in just opening up the new high school. And I don't know if I need to do this in a motion or not, but I think that it would be very good for this board and the board president to write a letter, or many, to the governor, to the commissioner of education, to the State Board of Education, to our assembly people, our senators representing us, to state our case. Because obviously, if we don't do something, we're not going to get anything. And even if we do something, we might not get anything. And I doubt that we will. But they need to know how this is going to affect us. I think that if they're going to decide not to have a waiver, it should be on future projects, not on projects that they promised a waiver for. So I think what I would like Mr. Kaufman representing us is to send a letter to state our case.
Sure.
And I don't know if I need to do that in a motion?
No, we're good.
I second your proposal.
Amen.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anyone else? Lou?
Very short. I just wanted to recognize the Oak Tree PTA recently received an award for the largest new unit for 2009, 2010 in the entire state, which is a pretty big accomplishment. That's it. The Oak Tree PTA, largest new unit.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, we go on to item 14, closed session. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe hereby moves to go into closed session in accordance with Sunshine Law 231 of the Public Laws of 1975 NJSA 10:4-6 through 10:4-21 to discuss the following subjects: personnel matter number 0, employee number 002052. Discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public at such time as the matter has been resolved. Motion?
Second.
Kessler, Ms. Kalpanowicz? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Discussion. We'll be back. Yeah, we'll go out. Okay. This could be easier.
I just buzzed it.
Okay, we're back. Dr. Hamilton?
It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the suspension of employee identified as 002052 retroactively from January 14th to January 19th. The superintendent and the Business Administrative Board Secretary are hereby authorized and directed to take all necessary steps to implement this action of the Board of Education.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're going to do a roll call. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Mr. Tesler? Yes. Mrs. Faroni?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Board President, motion to extend suspension to today passes.
Thank you.
Next item. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the termination of employee identified as 002052, effective January 19th, 2011. The superintendent and the board administrator, business administrator, board secretary are hereby authorized and directed to take all necessary steps to implement this action of the Board of Education.
So moved.
Kathy? Second. Mr. Chiarella, discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Mr. Tesler?
Yes.
Mrs. Faroni?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Board President, motion for termination passes.
Can I ask a board member to amend the previous motion to make those dates January 14th through January 18th?
Motion to amend?
Second.
Would you like to recast your vote taking for the new dates?
Yeah, just to make sure the records are correct.
Any discussion? Mr. Gorski, roll call?
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Mr. Tesler?
Yes.
Mrs. Faroni?
Yes.
Mrs. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Masters?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Board President, motion to amend passes.
That's it from me, sir.
Okay. Item 15, public forum. Anyone wishing to speak before the board, please state your name and address for the record. Anyone? Seeing no one. The next scheduled public Board of Education meeting will be held on Wednesday, February 16th, 2011, at 7 p.m. at this high school. Motion to adjourn?
I second it.
Tesler? We'll give it to Mr.
Your
Klein.
mouth.
Yeah, he's been waiting here all afternoon.
I've been robbed.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I can't turn the computer off.
Motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Turn the computer off.